Students, under the chapter Chemical Coordination and Integration, we will study the next endocrine gland, and here is the gland pancreas. So, as we know, pancreas is also called as mixed gland or composite gland, just because it is having both the properties, means exocrine as well as endocrine glands property. So, as I told before, that what is endocrine gland? Endocrine gland means ductless gland, and the exocrine gland means the gland which is having duct system. So, as we know, pancreas is also secreting enzymes along with hormones. So, and for the secretion of the enzyme, the glands are involved called exocrine gland, and the enzyme is secreted through ducts. However, on the other hand, the endocrine gland or ductless gland secretes the hormone in the intercellular spaces, and it will be collected from the blood and it will be transported to another place. So pancreas, that's why pancreas is also called as composite gland. Now we will discuss about the hormones secreted by this pancreas gland. So these pancreas glands have a special type of cells which is called as islets of Langerhans. And when we are talking about its number, then in human being it is around 1 to 2 million in number, and 1 to 2% of the cell, means 1 to 2% of the pancreas is contributed by this isolates of Langerhans. And again, it is having two different types of cells. One, one type of cell is called alpha cell, and another type of cell is called beta cells. And both the type of cells are secreting different hormones. Now we can see the alpha cells secretes glucagon. However, the beta cells secrete insulin. Both the hormones are peptide hormones, means both the chemical nature of both the hormones are proteinaceous in nature. Now we will see the function of both of these hormones. And generally it has been said that glucagon and insulin is functioning antagonistic to each other, means they will function antagonistically, or we can say opposite to each other. Now we'll see first the alpha cell. Now we'll see the function of these glucagon. So glucagon maintains the blood glucose level, and here, as we also know, that insulin also maintains the glucose level in the blood. So we'll see in what manner it is different. So glucose, uh, as I told, we will first discuss about the glucagon. So glucagon acts mainly on the liver cell, or liver cell we can also uh, say hepatocytes, and stimulates glycogenolysis. Glycogenolysis, which results in blood sugar rise in blood sugar, or we can say hyperglycemia. So what happens, the glucose stored in the hepatocytes will be stimulated to to means glucose stored in the form of glycogen in the liver cell will be stimulated to break down, and when the glycogen will be broken down, then glucose will be formed, and that glucose will come into the blood, and the blood glucose level will be raised. Now, stimulates glyconeogenesis, and what happens? Hyperglycemia. So, hyperglycemia is a condition in which the blood glucose level rises. And one more thing it does is reduces cellular glucose uptake and utilization. So, all together it will create the condition hyperglycemia, That's why it is also called as hyperglycemic hormone. And we can see here it increases the blood glucose level. So by this schematic representation also we can see that these are the hepatic cells, and this is the blood vessel. So what happens? It this glucagon glucagon breaks the glycogen into glucose, and what happens when the stored uh, glucose or the glycogen will be broken, then the glucose will come into the blood. By this way the blood sugar will be increased. Now we'll see what happens in case of uh, insulin hormone. So, as I told, it is again the peptide hormone. It maintains the glucose homeostasis, and it enhances glucose uptake and utilization on hepatocytes and adipocytes. So we can see how it is different as compared to glucagon. So glucagon, what it was doing, it was just breaking down the glycogen into glucose. And in case of this uh, insulin hormone, it enhances glucose uptake and utilization of hepatocytes and adipocytes. And there is a rapid movement of glucose from blood to hepatocyte and adipocyte. So what happens? This insulin, it it uh, it increases the glucose uptake from the blood to the hepatocyte. And what happens after that? This glucose will be converted into glycogen. So ultimately it will be involved in the formation of glycogen from the glucose. So we can see here that what happens when all the glucose will be collected and will be transported into hepatocytes or adipocytes, then the blood glucose level will will be lower down, and this condition is called as hypoglycemia, and stimulates glycogenesis. So we can see here by this reaction we means process, we can see that in case of glucagon the glycogen has been converted into glucose, but in case of insulin, glucose is converted into glycogen. So by this way we can say both of these hormones are secreted from a single endocrine gland, but different type of cells, they function antagonistically. One is forming glucose from the glycogen, and it increases blood sugar level, or we can say hyperglycemia, and that hormone is glucagon. On the other hand, uh, the insulin increases the formation of glycogen from the glucose. By this way, the blood sugar level decreases, and hypoglycemia condition we can see. Note, there is a one fact that the glucose homeostasis is maintained by both insulin and glucagon. So we can say that both of these hormones are regulating the homeostasis of the glucose. Now, the prolonged hyperglycemia or hyposecretion of insulin causes diabetes mellitus. So what happens when the level of the insulin decreases? Then what happens? The glucose uptake into the adipocyte and hepatocyte decreases. So the transfer of the glucose from the blood to rest to adipocyte and hepatocyte decreases. By this way, the blood sugar level rises. This condition is called as diabetes mellitus. So we have already talked about the diabetes insipidus. That is a different disease. But here the diabetes mellitus is different one, and it is due to hyposecretion of insulin. And in case of this hyperglycemia, what happens? Glucose comes into urine. So what happens when the glucose level increases in the blood after a certain limit? Then to get rid of the glucose, high amount of uh, glucose start coming out through the urine. and the form, what happens ultimately, it is uh, it becomes a harmful condition to that patient, and formation of harmful compound also occurs, which is called as ketone bodies. Now we'll talk about the next uh, endocrine gland, or we can say the special type of cells which is present in the testis. So testis is also having endocrine gland, or we can say endocrine tissues or cells. So we will see here. Uh, so the testis is having Leydig cells or interstitial cells. So Leydig cells or interstitial cells produces androgen or testosterone. So this androgen or testosterone regulates secondary sexual character, stimulate muscular growth, growth of axial hair, aggressive aggressiveness and low pitch of voice, etc. And it also stimulates spermatogenesis and produce anabolic or synthetic effect on the protein and catabolic metabolism. So what happens? This androgen or testosterone mainly regulate the secondary sexual characteristics in the male, or we can say it also stimulates the uh, spermatogenesis. Now we'll talk about the another endocrine gland, or we can say the endocrine gland present in the female. So this these are the special type of cells present in the ovary, and these uh, these glands secretes the estrogen and progesterone. So we can see here ovary is composed of ovarian follicles and stromal tissues. So ovarian follicles and stromal tissues are the endocrine cells which secretes hormone, and we will see here what are these hormones. So hormones are estrogen and progesterone. As we know that these hormones are secreted into female to regulate secondary sexual character and to stimulate the formation of ova or oogenesis. So we will see here that this estrogen is synthesized by growing ovarian follicles, and after ovulation the rupture of follicle is converted into a structure called corpus luteum, and this corpus luteum secretes progesterone. So what happens? The growing ovarian follicles are involved in synthesis of estrogen, but what happens after ovulation? It is converted into corpus luteum. So this corpus luteum uh, helps, or we can say is involved in the formation of progesterone. So when it will be in the form of growing ovarian follicle, then it will secrete the estrogen, but it will, when it will be converted into the corpus luteum, then it will start producing progesterone. So the same cell in different condition will secrete different hormones. Now we'll see the function of the estrogen. So the estrogen regulates the secondary sexual character, as we have seen in case of male. There is testosterone or androgen which regulates the secondary sexual character, but in case of female, we can see here that estrogen is involved in regulation of secondary sexual character and development of growing ovarian follicles and development of mammary gland. However, we'll see here that progesterone is involved in it supports the pregnancy and stimulates the formation of alveoli or sac-like structure which store milk and milk secretion. Now we'll see the hormones secreted by some organs. So, the hormones of heart, kidney, and gastrointestinal tract we'll study here. So some of the tissues which are generally not an endocrine gland also secrete hormones. So we will see one by one here. So the arterial wall of the heart secretes ANF hormone, and this ANF, or we can say arterial natriuretic factor, decreases blood pressure. So this ANF hormone we will discuss again in excretory system, and it this hormone helps in the decrease of the blood pressure. So when the blood pressure is increased, then ANF is secreted, which causes dilation of the blood vessel. So what happens? Dilation of blood vessel automatically reduces the blood pressure. So by this way, ANF decreases the blood pressure by dilation of blood vessels. Juxtamedullary cells of the kidney. So these cells also secrete hormone, and this hormone is erythropoietin hormone. So these erythropoietin hormones are peptide hormones, and as we know that this erythropoietin stimulates erythropoiesis, or erythropoiesis means the formation of RBC. It means the erythropoietin secreted by the juxtamedullary cells of the kidney stimulates the formation of RBC, and the formation of RBC is called as erythropoiesis. So this is one of the important question of the several competitive examinations. They used to ask that what is the function of this erythropoietin. So sometimes it will be written as the formation of RBC, and sometimes it will be written as the involved in erythropoiesis. Now we'll see the cells involved in formation of hormone. So gastrointestinal tract is secreting several of the hormones in different regions. As we know, the gastrin is secreted in the gastric gland of the stomach, and it acts on the gastric gland and stimulates the secretion of HCl and pepsinogen. We have studied earlier the digestive system, so we know that the gastrin hormone, we have already earlier talked about this gastrin also, that it stimulates the secretion of HCl and pepsinogen, and the secretin acts on the exocrine pancreas and stimulates the secretion of water and bicarbonate ion. And this third is cholecystokinin. This cholecystokinin, or CCK, acts on the pancreas and gallbladder, and it stimulates the secretion of pancreatic enzyme and bile juice. And the last is the gastric inhibitory peptide, GIP, gastric inhibitory peptide. And by the name we can see here the gastric means associated to stomach. So inhibitory means it inhibits the gastric secretion and motility. So several other non-endocrine tissues secrete hormones called growth factors and the normal growth of the tissue. Now we'll see the mechanism of the hormone action. So hormone targets on a specific tissue by binding with a protein called hormone receptor present on the tissue. So what happens when, as we know that hormone is transported by blood and or lymph. So what happens? These hormones are transported from one place to another place by by two means, either by uh, blood or by lymph. So by lymph or by uh, blood, it will be transported to another place. So it will reach to another place also. It means uh, at target place it will reach, but other than the target place it also reaches, but it acts on a specific tissue, just because the specific tissue for the particular hormone is having a particular kind of receptor on the surface of the cell. Means when we are talking about the special type, one type of hormone, then so as we have seen that particular hormone is is uh, is regulating a particular mechanism of a particular tissue or organs tissue. So that tissue, only that tissue will have the particular receptor for that hormone. So that receptor will recognize that hormone and it binds, and after that it acts. So what happens? There are two types of hormones receptor. One is called as membrane bound receptor, and second is called as intracellular receptor. So membrane bound receptors are present on the cell membrane. What happens? These receptors are present on the uh, surface of the cells of the target organ. But in case of intracellular receptor, it is present inside the target cell and mostly present in the nucleus. So it is also called as nuclear receptor. So we have seen that there are two types of receptors. One receptor is present on the surface of the plasma membrane. But in case of other type of cells, these are present mostly uh, over the nuclear membrane, or we can say inside the cell. So binding of a hormone to its receptor leads to formation of hormone receptor complex. So what happens when hormone binds with the uh, specific receptor? Then it forms the hormone receptor complex. Then after it leads to certain biochemical changes in the target tissues. It means then it will start its function. So the target tissue metabolism and hence the physiological function are regulated by the hormones, and the hormones interact with the membrane bound receptor, normally do not enter to the target cell but generate the second messenger, or we can say cyclic EMP, IP3, calcium ion, etc., and regulate the cellular metabolism. So when we are talking about the hormones which have been received, or we can say when the those hormones which have been functioning with the receptor present on the surface, those hormones will uh, will bind to the surface of the plasma membrane, surface receptors of the plasma membrane, and then the the cyclic AMP process, IP3 process, or we can say calcium ion is involved to generate the message. But when we are talking about the intracellular receptor, means the receptors which are uh, which used to bind with the receptor which is present over the nuclear membrane, that receptor are generally the steroid hormones, and mostly they regulate the gene expression and chromosomal function by the interaction of hormone receptor complex with the genome. So we can see here that we have seen different hormones, and all the hormones are having different functions. So most of the steroid hormones are they used to bind with the intracellular receptor, or we can say the receptors present over the nuclear membrane, and most of the peptide hormones they used to bind with the surface receptor, and the whatever hormones are there in our body which used to bind with the intracellular receptor, or we can say the receptors present over the nuclear membrane, used to regulate the gene's expression or chromosomal function, and by this way it regulates its function. Now we'll see one fact: as the cumulative biochemical action results in physiological and developmental effects. And now by this schematic representation we can see both of the mechanism of the um, mechanism of the hormonal action. Now we can see here this is the surface receptor. So this surface receptor is present on the, as we know, is on plasma membrane. So it receives this hormone, then the first response will be generated, or we can say the first response, then generation of second messenger or cyclic AMP or calcium, and biochemical response, then physiological responses, then ovarian growth. So we can see here one example, and the second example is the nuclear receptor. So what happens? This hormone directly enters into the cell. So there is no such membrane, so no such receptor is present over the plasma membrane, or we can say the receptors of this hormone will present on the nuclear membrane. So here we can see that it crosses the plasma membrane directly. Now when it enters into the cell, then it will be received by the receptors present over the nuclear surface. Will we can see here, when the receptor has received, the nuclear receptor has received this estrogen hormone, then receptor hormone complex has been formed, and now it acts on the genome and regulates the uh, formation of protein, and by this way physiological response will be created, or we can say it will regulate the tissue growth and differentiation. So this is the end of this chapter. Thank you.